now I'll move on to Tas from the Dunton Group. Now, bit of background about Tas. He's obviously a local boy in Dramana, just around the corner from Bass and Flinders Distillery. Tas and his team are quite knowledgeable and have significant expertise. His brother Sam set up Dunton Group quite a while ago, and they're well known throughout the peninsula. They provide quality service and products to their customers, and they focus specifically on solar and heat pumps within the electrical and solar industry. And with that in mind, Tas is going to tell us a little bit about how they helped Bass and Flinders. I'm going to hand it over to Tas.
Thanks, Ed. G'day, everyone. Welcome on board. Yeah, just here to give you guys a bit of information from the actual solar and retailer side of you, in terms of, ways that you can approach offsetting your carbon and lowering power bills and a bit of the quality around products that you can put in and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'll jump across to the next slide if we can, Ed. Yeah, so a little bit about Dunton Group, which Ed has just mentioned there. My brother and I started the company, as we're brothers and that's what you do. Basically, we're a really knowledgeable team. We love solar and we love heat pumps and we love working on the Mornington Peninsula because traffic, you don't want it. So the Mornington Peninsula is a great spot, and we get lots of really good businesses that have a similar passion to us, which is really good for us in our area. We're proud to provide our clients with the very best solar technology. We're careful in the brands and products that we select, making sure that the brands that we actually partner with have a similar core value to us. And yeah, so next slide, Ed. Yeah, so a little bit about how Bass and Flinders Distillery actually did learn about us, which Holly's already touched on, but yeah, much the same as Bass and Flinders. We not only have a passion for solar and gin, but coffee. Dunton Group had not long finished a solar project at our favourite local coffee roaster and cafe, Little Rebel, down the road in the industrial estate. We'd installed a 15 kilowatt system. Additionally, we'd installed a TV with a core flute around it so that while you're waiting for your coffee, you can actually sort of see what they're doing as a business. Obviously, Holly saw this and the juices started flowing, and she decided to reach out and get in touch with us. Next slide, thanks, Ed. So we caught up with Bass and Flinders, and basically there was a few main things that we really needed to go down to make sure that we could tailor a package to suit them and their business, obviously with growth involved in there with the new stills that were going in and new pots. So we did a site visit, obviously, so we could get an idea of what was going on inside the building, as well as what was on the roof in terms of, air conditioners, all that kind of stuff. We went through their power bill, tried to obviously give them some pointers on what they could do to obviously cut their power consumption anyway before using solar. And then, yeah, obviously worked out what their daily consumption was, and then tried to tailor a system to work in with that, bearing in mind the obviously additional consumption that was to come with the new pot. We went through the Solar Victoria program, which is the state, it's a Solar Victoria program that's given by the Victorian state government. They have just recently updated that as well. There is now some more information, which I'll touch on shortly. But yeah, basically, it's very easy from a business perspective to actually get that. You've just got to make sure that your solar retailer is a part of the program. And then basically the actual retailer, so us, Dunton Group, do everything for the business. And then we obviously give you all the information on how you can claim that as well. Once we had all this information, we could give them a really accurate system performance with the correct return on investment and the payback periods. Obviously, we can't really take into it, or we can take into account the interest and all that kind of stuff that is factored in. But basically what we like to do is we give them the dollar value on what they'll be spending, and then the return on investment as to how long it's going to actually take to pay that off. And then we can obviously add in the financial benefits at the end of that as well. Yeah, next slide. Thanks, Ed. So a couple of the rebates that the government, the state government and the federal government rebates that are on offer at the moment. So Dunton Group are a part of the Solar Victoria program and can offer eligible businesses a point of sales discount of $3,500, which is what we were able to get for Bass and Flinders. We organise all the paperwork, we do all the uploading to the portal and make it as simple for you guys to claim. And if you're not in our area, other retailers can do the exact same thing as well. So definitely reach out if you get stuck with any of that. Additionally, Solar Victoria have just released a $5,000 interest-free loan, which would be paid back over 4 years and is paid back monthly. So that's just something they've released in the last month or so. So definitely, if you're considering doing it, definitely ask the retailer, what other rebates are out there. The secondary one was the federal rebates, which we've all sort of heard a little bit about, formerly known or currently known as an STC. So installing solar in Australia, we're lucky enough to be eligible for a federal rebate, which is called an STC, Small Scale Technology Certificate. The STC is created by the amount of panels you install on the roof and the location in which they are installed. So for example, Queensland will get more STCs because they have more sunlight hours up there than what we do down here in Victoria, and that's how they base the actual quantity of STCs. And much the same as what David had said earlier about the VEEX and the VEEX scheme. The STC dollar value does fluctuate up and down. I think it's been down as low as $34. And I think it's sitting up around 37.10 at the moment. So it does fluctuate quite a bit, much the same as that other scheme as well. But Bass and Flinders, when we installed their system, were eligible for a $7,700 rebate for the amount of STCs they got, which was really good to see that, they've got well over $10,000 worth of government support to go green. Next slide. Thanks, Ed. The other side of things is obviously you just saw that Holly's bill, she was actually in credit. So this is probably one of the most important parts about having solar installed is the actual grid connection process. So it's really important that obviously once we install the solar system, it needs to be electrically inspected. Once that's all done, we compile all of that information and we lodge it to your retailer. At that stage, it's your retailer that connects down here on the Mornington Peninsula. We're with United Energy. If you're up in town, it's City Power, Powercore, and so on and so forth, so your local areas. But it's really important that you get your United Energy smart meter connected for solar so that obviously it can trigger any amount of solar that's either coming from the grid or going back into the grid so that you can get those credits. Unfortunately, at the moment, that dollar rate is at 6.7 cents, which is not great, but it's certainly better than nothing. And as you can see, Holly's on 6.7 cents. And their bill's still in credit. So it still does its thing. And basically once the electrical inspection is done, the solar system can be turned on. And at that stage, that's when the solar will start giving the business or the property the benefits. Even though you're not connected to the grid, the solar is still working and is still offsetting your current consumption. You're just not getting paid for any credits that may go back into the grid. Next slide, thanks, Ed. So the finished product, we're super high on aesthetics. So as Holly said earlier, I was pretty disappointed we couldn't put that 100th panel on. So Bass and Flinders had 99 395 watt commercial SunPower panels, which was a total of 39.1 kilowatts worth of panels. And they had two 15 kilowatt Fronius Simo inverters. Two of the best quality products on the market. A little side note about SunPower is the reason we partnered with them is they are such an ethical company. They are one of the only solar companies that actually submit their company results to the World Health Organization. All of their manufacturing plants don't have any of the waste go to landfill, which is a really big thing for us. We don't want to be putting bad products in that are just going to end up in landfill in years to come. So yeah, that was really important for us. Yeah, next slide. Thanks, Ed. So yeah, we've obviously seen the bill. Bass and Flinders have been able to not only help with the environment by installing solar, but actually not have a power bill at the end of it either. The daily consumption on the same period last year was 74.13 kilowatt hours. After installing solar, their consumption is now 33.58. So they've been able to drop their consumption by over 50% by obviously having that solar on. And obviously that's dependent on production and stuff like that. So yeah, the figures going through this, when I was making this slide, I was, actually really chuffed when you can prove that it works. But yeah, so their previous bill was roughly, their running cost for electricity was just over $25 a day. And now they're actually in 63 cents credit. So, in a few months' time, Holly might be able to get a free coffee at Little Rebel with her savings. But yeah, the solar savings on this bill was $782 in credit, which just goes to show that, putting solar in it does actually work. It's not a myth. So yeah, next slide. Yeah, so the last slide is obviously you can see the installation there, which is awesome to see. Another massive roof covered with solar panels down on the Mornington Peninsula. So our details are there. If you've got any questions, I'm sure Ed and the guys will post all of our details everywhere. So if you've got any questions, whether you're in our area or not, feel free to reach out. I'm only too happy to help. Yeah, back to you, Ed.
Great, thanks, Tas. That was excellent, really fantastic insight into how it all works and the mechanisms behind some of the work that you do, especially with the team and also with Holly. I was really interested in some of the ethical stuff and the links back to positive impact side of things. So I think many of the people here are all driven by that, in addition to some of the obvious financial benefits too. So yeah, thanks a lot, mate. Much appreciated.